Yeah, I'm just putting on my gloves here, and I'm going to show you how I mix the mortar. It's the lime and mortar mix to make the walls breathe. I've looked all this up now. I'm beginning to get more professional, and actually a guy on YouTube told me about this and I looked it up, so thank you for that. And I'm just using some of the older cement up, but anyways, I will be buying the lime, which is CHAUSHO in French, and I will be buying some bags of that to do the pointing. So let's get to how to mix your cement without a big mix or anything, with just a bucket and a cheap stirrer from the hardware store. And let's get going. Get my glove on. There we go. I can't stand the dryness of cement, and I usually use these oil, the oil resistant gloves. They're much stronger. So I'm going to put in some cement in here, in this bucket. Remember, the best one to use is the lime based mortar. Watch the cement coming up that it doesn't get into your face. You should put on a mask maybe. I got to shovel a bit more of this. We'll cut this bag open to make it easier. Show it quicker that way. I won't do too big a mix right now. And then I'll show you how to place the stone. The way I have developed it, this isn't like everybody's choice. Now, I had to buy a drill over here. Bosch, it's actually quite good for the price it was. But the stirrers are very cheap, and that's what I'm using here. And of course it's not plugged in, because I unplugged it for the lights. See if it fits. Oh, I got a light out now. There we go. Sorry about that. There. As close as I can get with this. Right, so let's see if it works running. There we go. We're all set to go. Now I mix it a little wet first, so there's not a whole pot of dry on the bottom. And I usually start off very slow so the dust doesn't shoot up in my face. You want to get it wet first. So there's too much dust. Then you can let it go. Now as you can see, that's very wet. I will show you it. So that's very wet. I'm washing my glove just so I don't get my drill all cement. But what it does is it makes the bottom not go all thick. And now I'll add to it enough to make it like a little bit like a porridge, right? It's a little bit thin, but not bad. I'll just put a little bit more in. So there we go. That's fairly well mixed. Now it's like a porridge, really. Right? Okay. And that's my mix ready. I haven't done very much this time because I just want to do a quick demo. I'm going to bring it over here to the location. Yeah, so what I'm going to do first is get this clean. As you can see, I've already hammered out a little bit of the mortar here, but I missed this hole here. Now you want that supported with that beam there. I'm not getting in deep enough, so I get a smaller brush and try to get all this out. As much as you can, anyway. Sometimes it just keeps going and going and going. Look at that. You can do this for hours, you know, and not stop with this stuff. Get it down reasonable anyways, right? So you're fairly happy. Now my spray gun isn't working, so I just take a bucket with water and a brush the old-fashioned way and just whip it in there. Make it really wet, right? Don't be afraid to make it wet. Otherwise your mortar won't stick. There we go. That's looking pretty good. And it makes the leftover lime stick as well, if there is any. I'm just putting on my gloves here. Now I'm going to show you what I do. Not for everybody, I suppose. I best basically catch a handful of cement here. Get the bucket out of the way. Fairly good handful of, where is it? Handful of cement here. And there you go. Real fancy. Of course, if you're in a nice house with a nice floor, you can't do this. Mush it around on top and everything. Make sure it's in there. Right? Wash my hand a bit. There you go. Now, you check your stone beforehand, what kind of stone. I found a stone that's quite good. And you wet it. You know, throw it in the water, get it wet. And you shove it in there. And look at that. Right? And of course, I'm just going to whip that in there like that. Now I'm finding the best way to do these is to let them dry and then come back to them. Right? It's a little bit wet, my mortar. Boy, did it go in there. Huh? Right? Now if I'm filling cracks that give me trouble, I wet it like crazy. And sometimes I just paint the cement on like that. Right? And then I let it dry so that next time it sticks. If it's giving me too much trouble, right? I don't have any epoxy in this. The other alternative now is to just go in, right? And you start getting your cracks nicely filled. Then what you do afterwards, you take your little brush when it dries up. I'll just wash those stones off. And it's falling a bit. A little bit wet. When it dries, it'll be fine. You can see what's happening. Yeah, see, I'm a little too wet there. See that? Come back in half an hour, it'll be solid as a rock. So there you go. I'll give it a little more wash. I mean, that's how easy it is. Right? You can take your other little tools and, you know, if you do it with these, like these tools, like this, right? And it's drying, and leave it a half an hour, come back and give it a little brush so that it looks more like a wall, right? And there you go, it's pretty easy. I'm going to show you one other thing I do. I sometimes take the back of the trowel, right, there, and I press into these hole places to make sure they're packed, and then I re-throw it, right? Just a little bit more there. How's that? Look at that for a throw. Lovely. I'd be more concerned about the beam shifting than I would about the look at the moment. That's pretty good. Let's leave it. We'll come back and clean it up in half an hour or something. And it'll look great. Give it a light clean just so you get an idea of what I'm doing here. Right? Sometimes you got to come back and fill it in a second time. So there you go. That's how I cement it. You know, bigger stones use bigger stones. But it's all the same. You get the stone that fits. Wet it. Wet the back as much as really wet. Throw cement in. Put the stone in. And then cement it in. I hope that helps some of you guys with your renovations. This is how I do it. Yeah, so it's been about 2 hours later. As you can see, this is dried quite a bit. It's not totally dry, and you get a little brush here, and you can make it smoother, or you can get a little bit more whisk brush and make it a little rougher, which I have here. I'll show you. Something like this, see? You make it a little rougher. It gives more lines too, though. I'm using the small brush because I like it. So let's do it with the small brush. And I wash the stones off so they're pretty watered. You don't end up trying to clean off all that cement afterwards, you know? So wet those stones really well an hour or two after you put it in. And make sure you get most of that cement junk off. Look how nice that looks. I can clean it a bit with a wire brush that was on before, see? Now let's brush this in. Sometimes a little crack appears, you can get rid of it like this. You can see where we did a little bit of pointillism. Clean the stone a bit more. I'm going to wire brush too and just give it a quick scrub and then a wash. And there you go, that looks pretty good. That's a good patch job now. Got these nice tightened beams going nowhere. So that's how I do it. Yeah, as you can see, I filled around this pipe here by putting stones in. It's got a little dip still. And back here that big hole has been filled with a rock. And it needs still a little bit of filling. It has a dip in, but what you do is let it dry, wet it, and then fill it a second time. Patched up along the bottom there. Yeah. We did the beam up here. I'll just show you that up there. It's getting too dark, I think. And anyways, I finished this bottom today a bit. Gave it a bit of a brushing in that. Needs a slight clean, but not much. I'm just throwing some rocks up top there. There's where, where's my finger? Oh, it's not in there. In that corner there, I filled it in. And if we go over this way, we can see my new door frame. Yeah, so I started here. I used to hit my head all the time. So I knocked it out. I had a bit of a disaster because it broke up too far. So I filled all this back in again. All the way up as far as I could go there. I think it's about to there. Nearly fell all down. And it's pretty solid now. And so we're back on track. There you go. It's one of my... Where's the lens? That was one of my first stones. It sticks out a little. So I've improved a bit since then. As you can see, this side was the beginning of my work, and you can see as I went along how much I improved on picking stones and everything. It's funny how it goes.